Judged by the cover. The late afternoon sun warmed the glossy windows of Crescent Hill Elite Motors, a luxury dealership nestled in the wealthiest corner of the city. On any other day, it would be just another slow Tuesday. Espresso cups on marble counters, polished shoes clicking over tile, and smooth jazz humming beneath whispered sales strategies. But today would be remembered. A pair of worn sneakers stepped onto the marble steps. She came alone. No entourage, no designer bag swinging from her arm. Just a canvas tote, faded jeans, and a gray sweater with slightly frayed cuffs. Her name was Lena Rivers, and though she looked like she just stepped out of a grocery store, her presence was composed, confident, even. She had that quiet, unshakable grace that turned heads, only for people to look again in confusion. Who was she? Just a simple woman, the staff would later say. Someone who didn't belong. Lena paused at the entrance. Through the dealership's towering glass doors, she could see them. Sleek machines gleaming under chandelier light. McLarens, Lamborghinis, a few custom Rolls-Royces. Luxury that whispered legacy and power. She wasn't here for show. She was here for one thing, a birthday gift for her little brother. A boy who, after years of hardship, had finally graduated with honors and started his first job. A car had always been his dream. Lena had promised him, "Someday when the time is right, I'll get you something no one can take away from you." That day had come. She had the means now. She had the freedom. What she didn't expect was how cruel appearances could be. The automatic doors whooshed open. 3 suited salesmen stood near the entrance sipping coffee and pretending not to stare. One of them, a sharp-jawed man named Preston Ward, nudged his colleague and whispered loud enough for Lena to hear, lost, or delivering coffee. They laughed. Lena pretended not to notice. "Excuse me," she said gently, approaching the front desk. "I'd like to speak to someone about purchasing a car." A young receptionist blinked in surprise. What kind of car?" "A Rolls. The Wraith, Black Badge Edition, if it's available." The desk girl hesitated. Preston, now eavesdropping, stepped in. "The Wraith?" he asked, eyes darting down to her sneakers. "That model starts at $400,000. It's not typically a walk-in purchase." Lena offered a polite smile. "That's fine." Preston's smile turned into a smirk. "Ma'am, we usually require appointments for serious inquiries." "I'm quite serious," she said. "I can pay up front." That was the trigger. Preston laughed, an arrogant, sharp sound that turned the receptionist red. "Right," he said. "Do you happen to have that in your tote bag?" Lena's fingers tightened around the canvas handle, but her tone didn't shift. "No, but I have a banking representative one call away. I'd like to test drive the Wraith if possible." Preston leaned in, his voice low and taunting. "Look, I'm not trying to be rude, but we don't let people window shop these vehicles. They're not toys. People come in here every day wanting selfies with Ferraris. It wastes our time. Let me walk you over to the pre-owned section. We've got some beautiful 2015 models that might fit your lifestyle." Behind them, a couple entered in matching designer clothes. Preston perked up, and without another word, turned away from Lena and greeted them like royalty. She stood there for a long second, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded silently and walked out. The automatic doors whooshed shut behind her. That evening, Lena sat at the edge of a quiet rooftop garden. Sunset melted across the skyline. She held her phone in both hands, debating whether to make the call. Then she did. "I tried," she said into the receiver. But it wasn't about the car. On the other end, a deep voice responded with calm understanding. "Say the word." Lena hesitated, then softly said, "Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. She didn't need vengeance, but some lessons deserved a larger audience. The next morning, at precisely 10 o'clock a.m., a murmur swept through Crescent Hill Elite Motors. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, custom-built, painted a deep obsidian black with a silver hood ornament shimmering in the morning light, pulled silently into the customer lot. Its presence was imposing. Staff leaned toward the windows, whispering. A valet sprinted out to open the door. The chauffeur exited first, uniformed, stiff-backed, and opened the rear passenger door. Out stepped Devin Rivers, CEO of Rivers Global Technologies, net worth $3.2 billion. Quiet, private, rarely seen in public, and most importantly, Lena's husband. He stood tall in a midnight blue suit tailored to precision. A titanium watch peeked from his cuff. His eyes scanned the dealership calmly, stopping on Preston, who had just spilled half his latte down his shirt. Devin strode in. "Good morning," he said, voice deep and calm. "I believe you met my wife yesterday." Preston blinked, his skin suddenly 3 shades lighter. "Tell you wife." Devin turned. Behind him, Lena walked in. Same jeans, same sweater, same calm grace. This time, no one laughed. Lena's footsteps echoed across the polished floor as she entered the dealership for the second time. Only now, the silence that greeted her was filled with unease. The same salespeople who had chuckled at her the day before were frozen in place. Preston Ward's jaw clenched as he took an involuntary step back. He hadn't recognized her. Of course he hadn't. She looked exactly the same as yesterday. Same faded jeans, same scuffed sneakers, same minimalist ponytail. But there was a Rolls-Royce in the lot with a license plate that read RIVRS1. And today, she wasn't alone. Devin Rivers walked beside his wife like a storm wrapped in silk. Calm, powerful, dangerous if provoked. His company powered half the country's smart infrastructure. He'd once turned down a White House dinner invitation without explanation. He didn't speak right away. Instead, he glanced around at the now silent showroom. "I assume you have the Azure Wraith available?" Devin asked. Richard Devereaux, the dealership's general manager, came sprinting from the back offices, already sweating. "Mr. Rivers." "It's an honor, sir." "Yes, of course. We have it ready." "Please, this way." Devin stopped. "No, I'd like Preston to show it to me." Richard blinked. "Preston." Preston visibly swallowed. "Sir, of course. My pleasure." Lena stood silently, watching, not because she needed revenge, but because she needed this place to see. Not just her, but everyone who had ever been dismissed because of a t-shirt instead of a tuxedo. Preston moved awkwardly toward the elevated platform, his confident salesman swagger replaced with the shuffle of a man on uncertain ground. "This way, sir. The Azure Wraith, limited edition, stunning vehicle." As Devin followed, Lena lagged behind, taking in the showroom with new eyes. She saw Daniel, the young associate from yesterday, stand straighter when he noticed her. He gave her a small, uncertain smile. She returned it. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" he asked. "For seeing me yesterday, even when the others didn't." Daniel blushed slightly. "It's nothing." "It's everything," Lena replied. Meanwhile, Preston attempted to recover his rhythm. "This particular model has custom interiors. Italian leather, soundproof cabin, V12 twin-turbo, 624 horsepower. As you can see, it's one of the best available." "I know the specs," Devin interrupted gently. "My wife gave me the full rundown last night. She wanted to purchase it, but was denied." Preston fumbled. There must have been a misunderstanding. I had appointments lined up, and I thought." "You thought she couldn't afford it because of how she was dressed." Devin finished for him, voice soft but sharp. "Is that about right?" Preston's face drained of color. Devin stepped forward. "My wife and I don't flaunt wealth. We don't wear labels to impress strangers. She built a literacy program for underprivileged children across 6 states. I built a company from a garage that now employs over 50,000 people. Neither of us were handed anything. But you." He paused, his gaze cool. "You decided, in one glance, that she wasn't worth your time. Preston looked like he wanted the floor to open beneath him. "I believe you owe her an apology," Devon said. Lena walked up slowly, meeting Preston's eyes. She wasn't angry. She wasn't smug. She was simply calm. "I'm sorry," Preston said, voice stiff and low. "Truly." Lena nodded. "I accept. But I didn't come back here for that. I came for a car. For my brother." Devon turned to Daniel. "Would you be willing to handle the sale?" "Absolutely," Daniel said, his voice firm for the first time. Devon nodded once, then turned to Richard, the general manager. "And I'd like to speak with you privately in your office afterward. We'll discuss customer treatment standards, training, and perhaps management reassignment." Richard nodded quickly, avoiding eye contact with Preston, whose shoulders sagged as realization dawned. "Later that AFT or not on." The paperwork was signed. The payment was wired. The Azure Wraith was officially gifted to Lena's brother, his dream come true. But before she left, Lena took one final walk around the showroom. Customers had resumed their shopping, though the air still buzzed with what had just happened. Whispers followed her now, not of mockery, but of curiosity, awe, even admiration. She paused by the receptionist from yesterday. "You don't have to answer this," Lena said gently, "but do you ever get tired of pretending not to see things?" The girl looked up, eyes wide. I do." Lena placed a card on the desk. "This is for you. If you ever want a fresh start, my company's always hiring people who treat others with decency." The girl's hands trembled as she took it. Lena walked back toward the Rolls-Royce waiting outside. As the doors opened for her and Devon, she turned for one last glance at the dealership behind her. She didn't feel triumph. She felt closure. That night, her phone buzzed with a video message. It was her brother, eyes wide with disbelief, standing next to the car. "Lena, you got me a Wraith. Are you kidding me? This is insane. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You already did," Lena whispered back at the screen. "You gave me a reason to walk back in there." She stood at her bedroom window as the stars blinked above the city, and for the first time in a long time, she felt seen, not for the money she had, but for the value she carried. Behind the glass doors, the headlines came fast. Tech billionaire slams luxury dealership for discrimination against his wife. CEO's wife rejected for dressing too simple. Buys $450,000 car anyway. Judged for jeans. Woman's quiet revenge goes viral. The video had been captured by a bystander. Someone shopping for a sports car who'd never expected to witness a public reckoning unfold like a courtroom drama. In less than 24 hours, the footage racked up over 6 million views. A storm brewing. At Crescent Hill Elite Motors, the mood had shifted from smug luxury to cautious panic. What had been whispered snickers 2 days ago had turned into quiet offices, closed doors, and emergency meetings. Richard Devereaux, the general manager, sat in his office staring at a muted television screen replaying the viral video on loop. Preston Ward, his highest-earning salesman for 3 years in a row, was now a walking PR crisis. "Damage control," Richard muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. "We need it now." Preston stood stiffly across from him, freshly shaved, his usually cocky confidence replaced with controlled shame. "I know how this looks." "No," Richard interrupted sharply. "You don't. This isn't just bad press. It's catastrophic. Our stock clients pulling their orders. 2 manufacturers have paused our early allocations, and the Collins Foundation." He gestured to the screen. "They have an army of supporters now. You embarrassed them publicly." Preston's jaw tightened. "I'll apologize. Again. Publicly, if I have to." "It's not enough," Richard snapped. "We need to change. We need to show change." Preston stared for a beat. "You're not firing me." Richard leaned back. "No, but you're being reassigned. Starting tomorrow, you're no longer in the sales department." To where? Richard gave him a flat look. You'll be working front lot coordination and weekend events, including volunteer work. Collins Foundation Gala next week. Preston said nothing. And you're shadowing Daniel for a month. He made the sale, you didn't. Learn something. At D.A. Collins or ESIDENC. Across town, Lena Rivers sat on the veranda of the Collins estate, sipping herbal tea as birds chirped beyond the stone balustrade. The house, like her, was understated elegance, white pillars, ivy-covered walls, and wide gardens. But despite the calm morning, Lena's mind wasn't quiet. Are you sure about this gala? Devin asked as he joined her. We can skip it if you'd rather not face the circus. No, Lena said softly. We're not hiding. She glanced at the laptop in her lap. Hundreds of emails had flooded in since the video aired. Messages from strangers who had felt exactly as she had. Judged, dismissed, shamed for their appearances, their jobs, their quiet ways of living. A single mother from Detroit wrote, I went into a real estate office in my scrubs and was told the apartments weren't in my price range. Joke's on them. I was looking to buy the building. An elderly man from Atlanta had written, They ignored me at the bank because I was in overalls. Didn't know I sold my business for $22 million last year. Lena scrolled slowly. You've struck a chord, Devin said. I didn't mean to become a symbol, she replied. You didn't, Devin said. You became a mirror, and now people are seeing themselves. Lena nodded. Then let's give them something worth seeing. The GALAPRAPARATIA. A Collins Foundation Gala was an annual event, but this year it was personal. Lena worked closely with her team to ensure it wasn't just glamorous, it was purposeful. There would be children sharing their stories on stage, families who had benefited from the Foundation's literacy buses, adaptive classrooms, and mobile therapy clinics. There would be no corporate sponsors hogging the spotlight. This night wasn't for brands. It was for dignity. And yes, she'd ensured that Crescent Hill Elite Motors was still invited, on purpose. They needed to face the impact of their behavior. BACK at the DALERSHIP. Daniel stood behind the front desk, sorting inventory lists when Preston approached. Gone were the designer watches and smug smirks. He wore a basic dealership polo now, and for the first time, asked instead of assumed. Can I help with that? Preston offered. Daniel looked up, a little surprised. Sure, you can organize test drive waivers. They worked in silence for a bit before Preston broke it. Why didn't you laugh with the others? He asked suddenly. Daniel looked at him. Because she was asking about the car, not your opinion. Preston shifted. You were right. I treated her like trash. She didn't want revenge, Daniel said quietly. She wanted respect. Preston nodded slowly. I know. JLA night sheet. The grand ballroom shimmered with soft gold light. Tables were arranged with minimalist decor, elegant without being overwhelming. At the center stage was a wide screen displaying photographs of the children supported by the foundation. Lena arrived in a floor-length black gown. Simple, graceful, no glitter, no diamonds. Her hair was in a loose bun, her only accessory, a silver pendant with her brother's initials carved into it. She greeted guests with warmth, hugging volunteers, shaking hands with donors, thanking teachers and therapists by name. Devin stood beside her, proud and silent, letting her shine. Midway through the night, Lena stepped on stage as the room quieted. She looked around, at old money, new tech billionaires, grassroots workers, school teachers, and yes, Preston and Richard, standing near the back awkwardly in volunteer uniforms. Lena took a breath. I didn't want to be here tonight because of a viral moment, she began. I wanted to be here for the work. She glanced toward a boy in a wheelchair near the front row and smiled. But then I realized, sometimes the work chooses you. Sometimes you don't ask to be seen, but you're thrust into a spotlight because someone decided you weren't worth their time. A murmur passed through the audience. And when that happens, you can either walk away quietly, or you can turn around and say, "Not anymore." She let the silence settle. We judge people in seconds. Their clothes, their skin, their job titles. We decide their value based on labels, accents, brands, bank balances. But the truth is, kindness can't be measured in car payments or kosher. She gestured to the screen behind her. Images of smiling children filled it. These are the people who matter, not because of what they own, but because of what they overcome. They deserve more than handouts. They deserve honor. A standing ovation followed. Even Richard clapped, visibly moved. Preston stood stiffly beside him, eyes glossy but unreadable. The human speak te tirorin. As the event wrapped up, a quiet moment unfolded in the side corridor of the ballroom. Lena had stepped away for a breath when she heard footsteps behind her. "Mrs. Collins." Preston's voice was hesitant. She turned. He stood there, hands clasped in front, not as a salesman, but a student. "I've been volunteering every afternoon since the incident," he said. "I started with pity. But these kids, they don't need pity. They need understanding. And I didn't even know how much I lacked it." Lena said nothing, waiting. "I came tonight, not just to support," he continued, "but to say something. I disrespected you. And worse, I represented a mindset that hurts more people than I ever realized." He reached into his coat pocket and held out a check. "I've been saving for a down payment on a second home, but I'd rather this go to the literacy bus you're trying to fund." Lena accepted it without looking at the amount. "I appreciate that," she said simply. He nodded. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." More than a statement, a legacy. Opinioning Cieni. 2 weeks after the gala, a different kind of buzz filled Crescent Hill Elite Motors. It wasn't the usual hum of high-end clients negotiating for speed and horsepower. It wasn't the scent of polished leather or the low purr of six-figure engines echoing across the marble showroom. It was curiosity, restlessness, change. The viral video had transformed the dealership into an unwilling symbol of class discrimination. And now it stood at the center of a cultural shift it never asked for but could no longer ignore. Preston Ward, once the untouchable sales manager, now took early shifts managing weekend volunteer coordination. The previous month had sobered him. He no longer barked orders, no longer walked like he owned the place. He listened now, especially to people he once would have ignored. And today, something unexpected had happened. 2 teenage boys in thrift store jackets had walked in, laughing, pointing at the supercars like wide-eyed dreamers. No one shooed them away. No one asked them if they were in the wrong place. Daniel, the youngest salesman, the same one who had stood up for Lena Rivers weeks ago, approached them with a smile and asked, "Wanna sit in the Ferrari?" The boys froze. "For real?" "Absolutely," Daniel said. "Just don't crash it." Everyone laughed. And for the first time in years, Crescent Hill Elite Motors felt human. Me en Vawile. Ached the Foundation. At the Collins Literacy and Inclusion Campus, Lena Rivers stood in front of a half-constructed building. Dust hung in the air. Workers in yellow vests hauled beams into place. Kids from nearby neighborhoods watched with wide eyes through the chain-link fence. The new adaptive learning and sports complex was weeks away from completion. And this, more than the viral moment, was what mattered to Lena. The gala had raised enough not just for the building, but for mobile outreach vans, new reading programs, and even scholarships. Donations had poured in, not because of guilt, but because of awareness. People had seen what quiet bias could do. They wanted to be part of something better. And Lena had become their guide. A surprise arrival. That afternoon, as Lena gave a tour of the site to city council members, a sleek car rolled up the dusty gravel driveway. It wasn't Devon's Phantom or the usual Foundation fleet. It was the Azure Wraith, the one Lena had originally asked about. The driver stepped out and opened the passenger door. Out stepped Thomas, Lena's younger brother, beaming. "I figured if I was gonna show up to my new job," he said, "I should probably do it in style." Lena smiled, eyebrows raised. "New job." He held up an envelope. "Got an offer letter this morning. Assistant Program Coordinator, Collins Foundation." She laughed and hugged him tightly. "I had to work my way in," he teased. "Even being your brother doesn't get me a pass." "You're right," Lena said. "It shouldn't." That evening, Lena received a call from Richard Devereaux, the general manager of Crescent Hill Motors. "Mrs. Collins," he began, "I want to thank you again for your grace and for not burying us." "I didn't want to bury you," Lena said. "I wanted to make sure no one else got buried because of you." "Well," Richard cleared his throat, "we've implemented a full retraining program, partnered with a diversity consultancy, and we'd like to name our community outreach wing in honor of your foundation." Lena blinked. "That's unexpected." "We're not trying to fix our image," he admitted. "We're trying to fix the mirror. Preston has volunteered to manage the program full-time." He requested it. Lena was quiet for a beat. "Invite me to your first workshop. You'll be our keynote speaker. A moment." 1 month later, a press event was held at the dealership. Instead of announcing a new sports car or showroom expansion, Crescent Hill Motors unveiled something entirely different. The Lena Rivers Customer Dignity Pledge, a mandatory commitment signed by every employee, promising to treat every person with equal respect, regardless of appearance, background, or wealth. On stage, Lena stood behind the podium. No designer gown, no pearls, just jeans, a blazer, and a quiet smile. "I didn't ask to be seen," she told the crowd. "I asked to be respected." Behind her, a banner read, "Value is not worn, it is lived." Lena and Preston. After the event, Preston approached her outside. "I stepped down from my old role completely," he said. "I want to use my privilege for something better." Lena nodded. "Good. Use it well." "I don't think I deserve forgiveness," he admitted. Lena looked at him for a long second. "You don't. None of us do. But we can earn redemption one moment at a time." Preston smiled, a little sad, a little grateful. "I'll keep trying." "Then that's enough." EPIOGE. 6 months later, Lena watched from the bleachers of the new Collins Adaptive Sports Arena as children in wheelchairs raced across the freshly built court. Laughter echoed across the gym. Teachers cheered. Parents wiped tears from their eyes. Across from her, Devin clapped slowly, watching her instead of the game. "You turned a moment into a movement," he whispered. Lena smiled without turning. "No, we turned a moment into a mirror, and people finally looked into it." She leaned forward, cheering as Thomas's team scored a basket. Because in the end, it was never about the car. It was about every person who had ever been told they weren't enough, just because they didn't look the part. It was about rewriting the rules and reminding the world, you don't have to look wealthy to be valuable. You just have to walk in like you belong. Because you always did.